Alrighty, give me a sec, make sure I have everything timed. 3, 2, 1. And welcome to episode 16 of CBM Voice Chat. I'm your host, Neophant, and with me as always is my co-host and partner, AngryBlackManta.
Hey guys, how you doing?
And joining us is the third Calibero of our Three Amigos type band here. We've got Hank.
Hello.
And welcome, guys. It's good to have you all here. We kind of missed last week due to the Thanksgiving holiday, and plus myself just being so busy. Wanted to ask you guys, how have you guys been, though, for the last couple of weeks?
Tired.
Yeah, I can say pretty tired. It's just been a lot of Thanksgiving. Now I have 2 jobs going on, and yeah.
Okay.
Tired and bitter because it's all my fault. I'm so tired. No, I got like all of my schoolwork finished last night at like 6 o'clock. I'm like, yeah, I could go to bed early, and then I didn't go to bed until 1 o'clock.
Good times, good times. So I guess you guys have the perfect amount of energy to talk about kind of like the newest thing that recently came out, and it is that thing that we were talking about in our last episode, which is Justice League, the film that finally came out about 2 weeks ago. Yeah, it came out. I wanted to ask, did you guys watch it opening day or week, or when did you end up watching it? Opening day for you, Hank, and...
Yep.
I actually got the free tickets for the Monday viewing, so
very cool,
I was
very cool.
able to go with those Justice League kids.
Yeah, that's true. The kids who were... What were they? They were like, they had disabilities or they were sick, essentially?
Yeah, both. So they were either dealing with a sickness or... some sort of debilitating illness, and then they first got to be dressed up as Justice League characters and photographed, and basically got to be shown off and got their own screening, which is really cool. Yeah, it was really cool. They got applauded into the theater, and they took pictures with with some cosplayers, some really good cosplayers, except for the douchebag dressed as Christian Bale's Batman. It's just out of place, but he tried, I guess. But yeah,
Someone should have went as Hellboy.
yeah, but it was really nice to see them just welcome like that, and just be welcomed in and to just have a good time.
Exactly. As for yourself, Hank, you said you saw it opening day. How was that?
So I saw it with my mom and my dad. My little sister absolutely bailed out of seeing it, and that's because she just doesn't like seeing films with us. She did see it eventually. But like, it was one of those moments where, like, you know, people go like, oh yeah, you get like parts of your parents and like stuff like that. Like, it was during that screen where I would look at my mom like, oh my god, that's where I got it from. Because she was bouncing up and down. She was so excited. And I don't know, it was a good time. My dad was nearly falling asleep, but that's also because he falls asleep during every single movie we see.
I know what that feels like, believe me. Yeah, I have, my girlfriend falls asleep in a lot of movies. Mm-hmm.
Even the ones we watch at home, he falls asleep during. And he's the one who picks them out. Yeah, but, I don't know, we enjoyed it.
Okay. As for myself, I saw it on the opening Thursday. I dragged my girlfriend out. We both finished work around the same time, just kind of headed straight onto the theater. She was kind of glad that one of the things that we'll probably be talking about is that the movie was only 2 hours. So she was kind of glad about that because she had to work early morning the next day, so we could just quickly grab dinner and then head home type of deal. So I kind of watched it after there was a lot of buzz and hype, and the reviews were coming out, but I don't think the Rotten Tomato score was out at the time, or it had just come out, so everyone was kind of waiting with hushed breath to see how the film was going to be received, and I don't know if that changed any of your guys' impressions of the movie or expectations going in forward?
Not at all. I've just been focused on just preparing myself to just completely ignore the critic score or critic rating, and just look at the audience one.
Well, for me, it always depends, because usually when I read reviews and they say stuff like this, it's always like, no, I've seen worse. And then, like, I go and I'm like, yeah, I have seen worse.
Mm-hmm.
or like I'll do something like where I was like, oh, what were they talking about? And then I'll see like a scene like, oh, that's what got them so mad. It's like, really? That's what got them?
Okay, we can probably start talking more about the film itself. We're gonna go full spoilers in here, so hopefully listeners won't particularly mind, or I'll leave like a warning up on the video title. But overall, I mean, we'll start talking. We'll start by talking about how did you guys like the story overall of Justice League? Do you guys remember that there was a story, or how you felt about it?
I felt it was weak, but I also felt like it felt also similar, just in structure, to the first Avengers movie, just at a much faster pace. So it was one of those things where I'm like, okay, I forgave it in Avengers, so if I were to pick it apart here, it would seem kind of unfair.
The story for me is, yeah, I think it is kind of like, it was kind of like Avengers, but I felt like the characters were deeper, and they meshed a lot better. They had much better chemistry. So I enjoyed the story overall. There wasn't anything really too deep. Well, yeah, there wasn't anything deep about it at all. But there was really only one big point that really bothered me as far as story.
Okay, well, we can definitely get onto that later. My kind of impressions of the story was that it was very straightforward. It's a simple, bad guys are trying to invade, take over the world. Good guys kind of rise up and stop that particular bad guy. A lot of people are lost as maybe as like collateral damage, or places get blown up and crazy things happen, but it leads to a lot of great action moments, and ultimately it kind of ends up being a happy ending. And it was very straightforward, and coming from a director that we know who tends to do a lot of complicated, like tricky and controversial storylines, I was kind of surprised at how ultimately, yeah, it seemed pretty simple. It seemed like a straight up action flick. So overall, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, on some level, that is, it was refreshing, because I didn't really want to sit through anything that was too heavy. Not that there's a problem with that, but yeah, it was nice to be able to just sit there and just stuff popcorn in my face and just have a good ride.
Yeah, enjoy the ride, go through the motions, see all these characters that we've kind of enjoyed and liked for the last couple of years kind of team up and fight against a bad guy. And overall, I don't know how to say this, but I really enjoyed this movie. And I definitely know that there were some problems, but despite everything that I've heard and gotten from people's impressions and kind of saw for myself, I ultimately had a good time and definitely had a lot of fun with the movie.
Well, my thoughts on it, I've said it on the Discord, was I said, it's like, why did we always want to see a Justice League movie? And it's because we want to see these characters interact. We want to see these characters interact on the big screen. And that is the most important part. That is the part you have to nail. Where if this movie had like the best story ever put on film, if it had like the best villain ever put on film, and just had the best special effects we've ever seen, but if it had all that and failed on the team aspect, this movie wouldn't have worked at all.
Oh yeah. So overall, were you good with the team dynamics? How did you feel about all the different Justice League members kind of getting together and meeting each other and eventually deciding that they needed to team up?
Like I said, I feel like this team had a lot of excellent chemistry. You can see it in the press tour and just how much they have fun with each other, and just like how they are an actual family. Ezra talked about it in an article where he was comparing everyone to, like, this is the uncle, the grumpy drunk uncle. This is the loving mother. And it was 100% what he was talking about. You could see all those dynamics. And it was, like Hank was saying, it was awesome. And what we've been waiting for, to be able to see those characters interact. And I think it paid off very well.
Exactly. I mean, like, I don't think the movie necessarily needed to have a strong story or a strong villain or, like, a strong kind of, like, dynamic or even, like, the greatest action scenes, but I pretty much wanted to come in because I wanted to see Batman interact with Wonder Woman, wanted to see him talk to Flash and meet up with Cyborg and vice versa, and seeing kind of like where all these characters came from and how they eventually all came together. And I definitely agree with you guys that sort of team dynamic was definitely on the forefront of my mind when I was watching this movie, and also kind of like the main focus of the movie, and it really worked out.
Also, I think that's always that's the main appeal of a cinematic universe is when people go over to Marvel, usually what it's like, usually when you ask people like what they're excited for, rarely there's like, oh, I'm excited for like this sort of story element or something. No, it's like, no, I'm excited to see this character meet this character, or like this team interact with another one. It's like, oh man, I can't wait till this character meets this other character, and it's like, yeah, that's what we want to see, and like, so like that's always what you have to deliver on. And I think Justice League did it pretty well.
So apart from the team dynamics, were there any parts of the movie that you guys particularly enjoyed? Any memorable action sequences, or like story moment, or character like development thing that you guys really liked?
There was one that actually someone pointed out and I didn't really notice. I'm like, I actually really like that, which was throughout like a lot of the movie, Cyborg kind of goes like, it was like, because Diana's like, oh, are you Victor Stone? He's like, I was. He's like, Victor Stone's dead. I have no idea, and I'm just an empty shell. Where it's just like, he was like, oh yeah, like, I'm not alive. I am dead. I am something like this. And then when we get to the end, and it's a very small moment, because they're going to separate the mother boxes, and Superman has this very, like, human moment. It's like, oh yeah, I like being alive. And then Cyborg just goes, yeah, so do I. And it's like, yeah, that's a small moment, but it's a big statement of his character, where it's like this person who's just like, yeah, I should have died during that. And it's like, no, I'm glad I'm alive now. And I'm glad someone pointed it out, or I would have kind of missed it. And it's the moment I really like in it.
Yeah, I think, as with almost everything except for Suicide Squad, because they didn't really have, well, they kind of did with Deadshot, but like DC continues to really hit home just how important family is for these characters and how it defines them. And every interaction with these characters and with their parents, whether it be Bruce and Alfred, or Barry and Henry, or Silas and Victor, they all were solid moments. And they were really, I guess, the heart of the film for me. That's something that just out of the other, like, that just Marvel just doesn't have, because we don't really know about their families or anything like that. So for me, I think that's just like a major point for Justice League, and it worked so well. But I think the action scene that did it for me would be the tunnel fight. Even though there's a lot missing from what we were expecting, I really love that fight.
Mm-hmm.
I think the best fight is the League fighting off Superman.
That's pretty good.
For a movie that's only 2 hours long, we can definitely name more than 2 or 3 really solid action sequences. Like, I really wanted to mention the Amazon Keep Away from Steppenwolf, when they're trying
that was good.
When they're trying to keep the box away from him, like the whole sequence of events between the horse jumping and lassoing of the mother box and constantly flinging it away from the bad guy. That part was great too, and I love the tunnel fight. And there were so many good action sequences, and Superman fighting the League, like, really, really good stuff.
Yeah. Oh, how awesome was it to see an underwater fight? I mean, it's just...
Well, as short as it was, yeah, it was pretty awesome. I remember because, again, I saw this with my mom, she's like, wow, that's actually really cool, like, just hearing her whisper it, like, as it was going on. It was like, yeah, we kind of haven't really gotten many underwater fight scenes in live action, like, really ever.
Yeah, it's just really interesting to see how they pulled it off, because I think they did it very well. It's like, you can see where Aquaman really has to, he can't just like throw punches and kicks. He has to kind of wind up or use momentum to put power into it. So I was totally sucked into that.
Mm-hmm. Such a cool display of powers, and the way that momentum was used throughout the scene to kind of like push people or like repel people away. Yeah, that was really good. That was a really great moment too. Apart from Cyborg, did you guys have any other favorite League members or characters that you wanted to bring up?
Flash.
Oh, big surprise.
What do you like most about the Flash, Hank?
Um, I think like it was just like because like a lot of like people like the characters where it's like, oh yeah, that's what I would be doing if I was like in a thing. It was like, oh, this is like the Stanford. It's like he was like, this is the fan of these heroes, and it's like, and like when Barry comes in, it's like, oh yeah, I would totally do that. Where it's like because when they first come in down in the back, one of the first things Barry does is sit in the Batmobile, and it's like, yeah, I would do that. That would be the first thing I'd do. And then like, and I don't know. And then like he has a lot of moments where it's like, yeah, I think like he has a lot of really small like genuine human moments where it's like most people wouldn't notice, but you look at it, it's like, okay, I like that a bit.
Like, I definitely wanted to mention those scenes that he has with his dad. Like, those are actually, like, genuinely really cool moments where he kind of shows a little bit of his frustration and resignation that he isn't able to be able to save his father from jail, which is
Well, like
pretty tough to watch
there's
at
like a
points.
small moment, and it's near the end where he and Superman are having like the like rescue race where it's like, oh, who could rescue the most people? And Flash is like, oh yeah, I got this, and then Superman like shows up and he's like, oh, and then he has like a moment where he's like, oh, okay, and then he quickly like shakes it off like, well, I'm not gonna let that bother me, and it's like, yeah, that's a really small moment, but it's genuine and like human there.
Yeah. For me, I think it's kind of like a toss up between Aquaman and Cyborg, just because I think I relate to them very well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of like a loner, but I kind of like I want to also be more social, but I don't know, I just can't quite bring myself to always do it. So I kind
And
of
if you
feel
sat
that.
on a lasso, you would totally talk shit about all of us.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
sure, for sure. But yeah, I have that. I just relate really well with Cyborg in that way, and just like you kind of feel apart from everyone else, but you really want to be with everyone else, and just be part of something. As well as Aquaman, who I know I despise being told what to do. It drives me nuts when I feel like I can't have my freedom, and yeah, I just really related to both of them. And I was also really pleasantly surprised by just how unsurfer dude like Aquaman was, because that's the impression that you get from the trailers is he's just this guy who drinks a lot and he's just having a good time. But no, it's really just he's just this really bitter guy who feels a responsibility, but he also just wants to be left alone and have his own freedom. But there's not really any of that that surfer guy in there. It's just this bitter guy who does like to have a good time, but he's a lot more serious than I thought he would be.
Exactly, because you don't really get too much of his origins except for when he has his conversation with Mira after the underwater battle. That he doesn't really feel like place in either on land or on sea because he knows that he's the firstborn of the monarchy of Atlantis, but doesn't necessarily want to go back.
Yeah, yeah.
He's great. I definitely want to give a shout out to kind of like the veterans of the DC Extended Universe, and that's of course Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, the Trinity. Like I especially loved all three of their kind of like roles in the narrative. Not only were they kind of like the leaders and the people who kind of push things to make things go forward, but they were also the people who definitely had their own kind of inner flaws or insecurities that they were worried about. Like for example, Batman, he feels a lot of guilt after what happened with Superman at the end of BVS, so he kind of feels like it's his obligation to try
There
to
was the
bring
other
him back.
thing with there is like I've read some stuff where people are like, oh yeah, Bruce feels like he's a completely different character. He's completely out of character. And I'm looking at some stuff. I'm like, no, that seems perfectly what he would do in character. And it's like that's also something that I think I would do in certain situations.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of understand that criticism because that's kind of how I felt that it was just a shade a bit. It was just like a shade too much in the optimistic department. But other than that, yeah, he feels like classic Batman, and it does feel like the guy who kind of moved on. But there is just like this kind of shade where I guess maybe a few too many Whedon jokes or something. But yeah, I can kind of understand the criticism.
Well, the thing with it is, what I think they kind of got, and I kind of like this, is the aspect of is that Batman always likes to act like he's moved on, but he's also a character who never really does. Like, where it's like, oh, if he was able to move on, he wouldn't be Batman. Like, something like that was that he has this thing where it's like, oh yeah, I moved on, I'm so glad, but deep down it's like, man, did I fuck up.
Yeah, that is classic Batman. That's why he's such a tragic story. Like he'll never have a happy ending. But yeah, oh man, I just lost my train of thought. Never mind.
Yeah, essentially he was feeling guilt over what happened with Superman. He wanted to bring Clark onto the team because he didn't believe that the team or the world could really trust them as icons, as heroes, and because he saw Superman as this beacon of hope that got snuffed out too early, and that later on in the third act battle, when Batman is taking on the Shield, he was kind of implying that he wanted to kill himself. I don't know if you guys kind of had that kind of thought when you watched the movie, that he definitely seemed like he wanted to try to like take himself out, but take out as many of the parademons as he can with it, which is why he kind of lured all the parademons away from the area, not only to help the team, but also to try to take out as many of them as he could.
Yeah, I definitely got that sense as well. I just don't think the movie let it kind of develop a little more.
There was also, like, I think it was an interpretation where it was like, that was his attempt at a Superman moment. That was his, I'm going to be the one who grabs the spear now. Because last time Superman grabbed the spear and it killed him. This time I'm going to do it.
And that's really been part of his character. He's always struggled with. That's what I was trying to say before. But yeah, he's always been that kind of character who, like Spider-Man, is willing to physically and emotionally or whatever just throw themselves on the grenade. And that's kind of, we all know that's kind of what made him switch sides and views on Superman, is because he did that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Do you guys have any thoughts for Wonder Woman? Because we had seen her solo film most recently back earlier this year in June, but how do you feel like she evolved as a character in this one?
I would now be very upset if Wonder Woman 2 doesn't take place after this, because it feels like this was kind of like a good place because I liked her character arc, which was like, no, I was afraid to step up, because last time I did it got someone very close to me killed. And I don't want to have that happen again.
Oh, you mean Steve Trevor?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then it comes down, it's like, and then by the time it's like, she's basically grown out of her shell now, and it's like, and at the end it has her talking to kids, and it's like, oh, cool. Patty, I swear to God, if you set the next movie during the Cold War like everyone says you are...
Is that been confirmed, though, or is that kind of like the rumors have been? That's going to be a Cold War?
Well, I think like that was a suggestion, and then like the second Flash suit, everyone just went, "Oh, that's what's happening."
No, I think she actually said a war movie.
Okay.
No.
But yeah, that makes me angry. I don't want to go backwards again. Yeah, I feel like we're in a good place with her, and yeah, I mean, I was afraid that she was going to be, I guess, too separate from where she was in Batman v Superman, but she is still a little bit more mellow. She's that controlled, powerful woman / warrior. So I really like that about her. I feel like she really kind of embodied the character better than she has before.
Exactly. I also felt like she was definitely trying to come out of her shell as a leader, because Batman had kind of implied to her that because she hid in the shadows, she wasn't really seen as a beacon of hope and inspiration, because she had kind of retreated from humanity for 100 years, and it wasn't until the events of the film itself that she was able to really find her footing and kind of work with the team and realize that she does have like the capability to be a leader.
See, I loved that about that part where she shoves him, and because I was expecting him just to be like, okay, whatever, I'm going to back down. But no, he does not back down. He asks her, where were you for a century? You were just hiding away and, holding on to your grief, so don't talk to me about what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like a very Bruce Wayne thing to say and do.
Exactly, yeah. So we got one more character that we haven't really talked about yet because it's also kind of a spoiler, but we got to see Superman
We've
come
said him enough.
back.
I've said him enough times, and
In the where?
I've mentioned him a few times in this
Yeah,
podcast. So.
exactly. But yeah, exactly. It's all good. But we've kind of seen Superman's character arc develop over the course of three films with Man of Steel back in 2013 and last year with Batman v Superman. How did you guys feel his character was treated or kind of looked at in this movie, Justice League?
I don't like it.
Okay.
I'm gonna be upfront.
Yeah.
I do not like it.
Okay.
Um, for me, it's a bit different because I was like, oh, I kind of like, I do like it, but not as much as like other people going. It's like, oh yeah, they saved Superman. It's like, oh, it's cool, look at, but I think, and this was a problem when Supergirl brought in Superman, is they started doing that, and I said the problem is if how his character was in Man of Steel and Batman v Superman was too far on one side, Supergirl Superman is too far on the other side. And for this, it felt like they were leaning too much to one side rather than being the happy middle. And the happy middle is where I think they'll find the best Superman, one who is vulnerable and does all this, but also does make some jokes. There are some parts where it's like, and then there's other parts where I'm like, okay, I like that. That's pretty good.
See, for me, I kind of landed on a good description of what I feel like they've done. Is it feels like Christopher Reeve in Henry Cavill's skin.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't. It didn't feel like a continuation of the character at all.
Some people would pay a lot for that kind of breakthrough, though.
Yeah, and I hate them, and this is their fault. But yeah, it's just. I mean, and one of the things that really bothered me was that the way he's smiling during the fight with Steppenwolf, and it's like, no, this guy understands the value of life and what it means to take a life, but yet here he is beating the crap out of this guy, and he has a smile plastered over.
But he didn't kill him, though.
Yeah.
It was still that violence, that level of violence. Like, oh, I'm enjoying beating the crap out of it.
That's true. So I'm kind of mixed on Superman's portrayal in the movie because I really liked when after he kind of got back to his senses and took Lois back to the farmhouse. I really liked those moments there. I know some of the stuff was either cut or changed from what we saw in the trailers, but the way that he was kind of able to not only kind of make a couple of jokes with Lois, but also kind of somewhat apologize for dying and not being there for Lois and then being back, I found that very heartfelt because I don't know, it was really cool to see Cavill not only kind of like speak up more and to have more lines, but also to kind of deliver that kind of emotion and drive that we haven't really seen in any of the prior movies yet, type of thing.
I can agree with that.
Yeah.
There were a lot of good moments where it felt like the same Superman we've seen in the last two movies. That felt very, heartfelt and continued where we left off.
Well, the way I look at it is like, I think this would have been easier to swallow if we saw this Superman sometime before the events of Batman v Superman. And stuff like that. And then when Batman v Superman happens, we see him kind of be brought down and go through those trials and then come out or something like that.
Yeah, it's just the only thing I can think about with that is just I would want another movie, but yeah, I can get behind that.
Because one of the ways I look at it is like, this is what he would normally be like when the world isn't beating down on him.
Yeah.
And so it's like, because when we get to Batman v Superman, he's been Supermaning and doing a lot of stuff, and and there were prequel comics to it. And the prequel comics, he acted quite a bit like how he does in Justice League. And then Batman v Superman happens, and that starts to beat him down and put him through the trials. And I think somewhere was that I think somewhere someone said that the camera footage of the game takes place actually during Batman v Superman and not before it.
I don't know how we'd have any proof of that.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, like, yeah, we do have some kind of like differing opinions on how we want Superman to be portrayed, but I guess we can kind of lean on to there to kind of talk about more about kind of one of the big controversies of the film, which is that halfway throughout production, or kind of like after the original shooting, WB or Snyder had apparently brought on Joss Whedon to come in to do rewrites and also to help reshoot parts of the film. And we can kind of tell that a good portion of the reshoots were done for Superman, because we could tell that because his actor had worn a mustache, or required to keep his mustache throughout the filming of Mission Impossible 6, they had to use CGI to kind of touch up his face a little bit to make it not noticeable.
Barely noticeable.
Barely noticeable. So we can kind of see that the reshoots did affect Superman's dialogue and some of his moments greatly, because we could see the kind of obvious CGI mustache face, or kind of like the higher upper lip, I think is how most people described his look after the reshoots, or after the CGI removal.
In the first scene is where it looked. The thing that I don't get though is there's the first scene of the movie, and then there's other scenes in the movie where it's CGI, but it doesn't nearly look as bad as it did in the first scene. Mm-hmm. And like you can tell it's CGI, and I'm like, what the hell happened? And it looks like they used two different methods. Just looking at it, and it's just like, why is it so different?
It really is just bizarre. I don't know if that was like, I don't know, an hour before they were supposed to turn in the movie, because they can do that now because it's all digital. They can work on it till about like an hour before the premiere. But yeah, it's like that was the last scene they were working on, and it's just like, oh crap. Let's just finish this up. Looks good. Okay, that's it. It just looks so bizarre. And he really, like I said, he looks like a Who. It just doesn't look like Henry Cavill.
Like, there are some parts during that where he looks fine, and then there's other parts where it's like, oh. I'm talking about just the first scene where it just switches back and forth, where it's like, oh yeah, that's it. Oh no, that's what. Oh, and like it just keeps on switching between oh, that's decent, and then it goes straight to Whoville.
Yeah, it's just I don't understand why MI6 Paramount couldn't just use a fake mustache. It's far easier.
Or CG on a mustache.
Yeah, and my idea for it requires a different story. You know, the league wouldn't be bringing him back. But if he'd just been back for a long time, but just just stayed away from everyone and had grown a beard, you could have just, had him wear a beard or something. Just stay away from the CGI. It's just...
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. It feels like there's a lot of crappy karma in the universe that just kind of piled in for this one movie. Just like these weird occurrences that just shouldn't have happened.
Dashed in all the karma with this one movie, I am fine.
As long as it takes away or at least it keeps all the karma from all the other movies coming up.
Could have looked like Grand Moff Tarkin from Rogue One.
I like Tarkin, the way Tarkin looked, but isn't that just bizarre? Just like, the death of, Adam Snyder, and then just the mustache and everything just seemed to come in at once.
Well, like the thing I talked to my friends about, and I just said, yeah, this movie's a Frankenstein, but at least it still resembles like a well-made human. Like there isn't fingers stitched to kneecaps, or
okay.
or faces stitched to the back or something like that. It still resembles a human. You could just see the stitches, and that's it.
Yeah, that's good. I guess that's a good analogy.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Before I forget.
Yeah.
Before I forget, did you notice in the Batcave, when the League was all down there, did you notice what Wonder Woman was looking at?
Oh gosh, when the Flash was running around? Because I completely missed that.
No. So it's right before when Bruce walks away and he's rubbing his shoulder or whatever because it's been dislocated. So right before that, Wonder Woman's looking at something, and it's the gun, Joe Chill's gun, in a case, in this glass case.
Oh
wow!
Really?
Yeah, it took me, I
Yeah.
think it was my third watch where I noticed it.
Cool. I liked all the samurai and kind of like the ancient like Japanese armor that was kind of around that area of the back of the, I guess it was the hangar where Batman talks with Alfred, and then later Wonder Woman has a dialogue with Bruce. I kind of wanted to mention that because I wanted to bring up one of the things that one of our listeners, just to give him a shout out to Miku. I have no idea how to pronounce his name. I'll just call him Miku
I just call him Mickey.
or Mickey.
Like a
Mickey.
listener?
I think so, yeah. But he wanted to definitely bring up some of the Seven Samurai comparisons because I don't know if you guys had remembered that really early on in the production of the film, Chris Terrio had kind of described the film as like a Seven Samurai bringing all the heroes together to fight like the bad guys type of story, and Miku had actually mentioned some of the interesting visual parallels and symbolisms within that uh, kind of reference Seven Samurai. For example, the whole scene where the Amazons are running away on the horses from Steppenwolf is kind of like an inversion of how the final battle in Seven Samurai went, where the bandits head into the village on horses and then they get cut down by the villagers and the samurai. But then in Justice League, it's Steppenwolf chasing them on horseback and cutting down the Amazons instead. I don't know if you guys had ever
That's
seen
cool.
Seven Samurai at all.
I still need to see it, and I hate myself for not seeing it.
Yeah,
yet.
exactly. I think we planned it also to watch it before Justice League, but we never got around to it.
It's a
just-
long movie, but it honestly goes by really fast because the pacing, I think, of the movie is really well done. It's a 3.5 hour film, but it never feels like that at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, that helps because it just feels like such a daunting task to watch a 3.5 hour movie. But if it feels like it goes fast, yeah, I'm totally down.
hmm a couple more things. Steppenwolf's design with the horns looks very similar to the Bandit leader because he also kind of has horn design on his helmet. And finally, the Amazons that are riding down the hills of Themyscira is very similar to a lot of scenes in like Lord of the Rings and Seven Samurai, where a bunch of soldiers come marching or come galloping down, which is something that he just wanted to give a quick shout out to. So we can definitely move on from that. How did you guys feel about the villain? Because I don't think we've talked about Steppenwolf, the villain, at all.
For me, like there was some elements just like, okay, this is gonna be our Ronin of the universe. It's like this is our villain where it's like he's there to serve as an antagonist. And the thing that I felt when I watched it the first time and then especially the second time I watched it was his Syrian Hines, the way he plays it is he kind of does it, he plays it like subdued and then like kind of hammy in some areas. I'm just like, dude, if you went full ham for this entire role, this would be a much more entertaining villain.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually really like Steppenwolf. I know he's a very shallow character, but I was ready. I guess I was ready for that because we knew he was just a zealot. You know, he was not lower tier, but he was just.
In some ways, it
He's
felt
like a
like the league.
lieutenant.
In some ways, it felt like the league was fighting a senile old man.
What?
No, because I remember I was reading somewhere they said like people were talking about like the whole the way he talks to the mother boxes, and they said like, oh, earlier in the movie they said like, oh, the disgrace of his first retreat kind of drove him insane, and it's like to the point where like when he gets back, he's just completely delusional and calling them just the mother box's mother and stuff like that, and it's just like where he's just completely lost it. And,
Yeah,
and then like he's also like of course like 1,000,000 years old, and then like he's like, yeah, like the league kind of fought a senile old man.
Kind of, but I don't really see that. Like he's been
he could level a building.
Well, he's been in exile for so many thousands of years, and he definitely has that kind of like old, grouchy, tired feel to him. But I didn't necessarily feel that he was any weaker for it. If anything, it just made him angrier because he had the big ass axe and was chopping down people left and right. Even though you never really see them get chopped, because it seems like his axe does blunt damage. I don't know if you guys ever noticed that. Like when he's hitting the Amazon, it never really like cut through them or pierced them in any way.
Well,
it just felt like
I actually would like if it's more blunt because that actually sounds way more sadistic.
Mm-hmm.
where it's like, oh, I'm not going to use this axe to slice your head in half. I'm going to use it to basically crush your skull.
I think that was just WB, and I think it was just WB sensibilities with the violence from Batman v Superman. You know, people were a little upset about the violence. I don't know why. These are violent characters, but yeah, I think that was mainly on just like one of their mandates is, hey, let's stay away from people, you know, being hacked apart, because, you know, it does cut away a couple of times before you would see someone's face get cut off.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's just something, as soon as Zach left, they're like, let's tone this violence down a little bit.
Yeah, probably. As for myself, I wasn't really too big of a fan of Steppenwolf because, one, his voice sounded a lot like Liam Neeson, so I couldn't shake out the fact that he sounded exactly like Liam Neeson, even though I knew it was a different actor entirely. So I could only like envision Liam Neeson as a bad guy with a big axe throughout the film in many ways. Two, his design doesn't look anything at all like what we kind of know from Steppenwolf from either the BVS deleted scene of Communion or even in the comics. He just looks kind of...
Well, in Communion, it was basically a hologram made of the liquid geo that like the Kryptonians use. So it wasn't like an exact design of what he looks like.
Yeah, but it's still, in BBS, he is more creature-like. His face is like entirely different, and he lets out this creature-like squeal or yell when he disappears.
Oh, Liquid Geo.
I liked him. And, okay, someone answer me this, please.
Yeah, of course.
Where was there any bad CGI for Steppenwolf?
It's not the CGI. I just didn't really care for the design. But if I had to specify,
I think there's only one scene, and it's just the way it's done. Is Silas Stone? Is when he lifts up Silas Stone.
See, I don't see it because that's
because the way he lifts them up is it looks like Silas isn't being grabbed by anything, and he's kind of like struggling against nothing, and like is awkwardly raised into the air.
Yeah, I noticed that, but I felt that was more on Joe Morton's part about like not knowing exactly what to do.
As for myself, the scene that kind of threw me off a little bit is the one, unfortunately, that was seen in a lot of clips prior to the movie coming out, and that's when Steppenwolf catches the missile with his bare hands, and he kind of like has that lighting look to his face, and it's kind of a popular image for him if you go on Google, but it doesn't look that great, and I felt like overall his CGI was a lot better when the movie progressed on. He didn't look like that at all.
Yeah,
Steppenwolf does a lot of knocking like projectiles aside.
Yeah, he does.
There's a lot of that.
But I don't know, like I feel like it was really good effects, because like at that point where he lifts, like right after he lifts Silas, he brings him close to his face, and we can see a close up of his face. You can like see the whiskers from his beard and everything. It's just like amazing detail.
Okay.
Like in the other, they also have these really cool details. I'm like, cool is like the little like bits of bone that stick out from his chin. Like one of them is actually like broken and chipped, and it's like, oh, that's kind of cool. It's like he has like some form of battle damage on his face.
A little bit, yeah. Like he's got like the wrinkles and the weariness, and you can kind of almost see like dents in his armor because of all the times he's been constantly knocked around. It doesn't. I don't feel like it really shows though in the third act final battle, because you see him get knocked around and stabbed at a lot, but I can't really tell. I guess not until the very end that he does look weak. And for me, the only time that you really notice is when Aquaman kind of pushes him down. He loses balance, and you can kind of tell that he's a little bit more weary and whines because he's like constantly monologuing after that point. And overall, I guess the third act battle, as much as I do like it overall, felt like it was definitely either changed a lot or had been cut down a lot from whatever originally was.
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys noticed that
too.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to bring this to a complete halt, but okay, so every time someone talks or when someone sends a message like heaven, it starts reading it to me. How do I turn that off?
How does it read to you really quickly?
Is it like a sexy voice?
No, it's like this computerized man voice. No, 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 no! Don't say anything, Heaven. Heaven, don't do it. Don't do it. It's like
Heaven,
This is a nice distraction.
Hell. But his figure usually looked peak. That's what it sounds like, and it's annoying because I can hear two people at once talking.
So I genuinely do not know how you managed to do that for yourself. Maybe it's under the user settings if you go to your
it might be
voice
under
and
some
video.
sort of accessibility. That seems like a setting for, I don't know, the blind possibly.
Yeah, if you go to notifications, there's a lot of things that are like sound, and then there's like message, deafen, undeafen. I think you can kind of see if you can fix anything up with there. But in the meantime, Heaven, if you want, you can always post on jail spoilers or maybe not necessarily. Do you think jail spoilers would work? Like if you weren't on the pod,
we're keeping this in the podcast, right?
Oh yeah, this is all in the pod. I'm too lazy to take it out, to be honest.
Try saying something now. I think I might have got it.
It's all good. We can kind of continue from there because of
no
luck.
No. Rubber baby buggy bumper.
Huh.
No change for you though, AngryBlackManta? In the meantime, I can probably give some thoughts on probably one of the more controversial topics of Justice League, and that's the music. How did you guys find the music overall?
It's one of those things where, like, if I listen to it on its own over time, it grows on me a bit.
Yeah.
But, like, in the movie, it is unbelievably unnoticeable.
Okay, see, that's weird because I've seen the movie twice, both times in IMAX, and both times I felt like the soundtrack was really loud, and it felt like you could definitely hear it. So I can definitely get the impression that it might not have been unmemorable or might not have been as good as like what we've heard with the Hans Zimmer and Junkie XL stuff. But the idea that you couldn't even hear it because of the audio mix or the way that it's put in that the dialogue overrides it, I don't really notice that. So I don't know if it's just me or if you had.
I mean, like, it's just like you're listening to it and it just feels like background music. It doesn't feel like, because like when you have Zimmer or Junkie, sometimes it feels like the music dictates the scene.
Exactly.
And then there's like there's only like 2 moments where I think the music really kind of dictates the scene a bit, and it's usually when both cases are when Flash is entering the Speed Force. I think those are the only times where the music really takes over.
Yeah, because
and it's also because it has to.
Elfman can go screw himself now, because this was one of the most unremarkable scores I've ever heard. And I've been saying it ever since I listened to it a couple weeks ago, before the movie came out.
God, I defended
an
Elfman
amalgamation
so hard before the soundtrack came out.
Same. I thought
I was just like, guys, if we want to get a Justice League theme that's like the animated series, Elfman's gonna give us to it, and then he gives us like the Avengers theme, but it's like if the Avengers theme had a few notes that went in a different different notes. And it's like, and it's like, so now it's like, so either they stick with that for the sake of musical continuity, or we get a new, possibly better one in the sequels, and this one's kind of a wait.
So
Sorry.
You go ahead first, because I wanted to kind of retort, but I want you to go first.
Okay, it's now I have to wait for Heaven to finish his.
Torment, no!
Okay. So, gosh, it's the worst. Okay, but yeah, I was willing to defend him because his Spider-Man soundtrack, his Batman soundtrack are all awesome. But this is nothing. It's just. Oh my gosh. It's just. I hear 5 different scores. I hear whenever the Flash is on, that score, that Flash motif or whatever. It's straight from the Hulk when he scored the Hulk. The one with Eric Bana. I hear Terminator Salvation. I hear Avengers. For sure I hear Avengers. I was listening to a podcast, and like, I don't hear Avengers. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you because it is Avengers.
Well, the thing is, like, I listened to him, like, no, I don't hear it, and then the Infinity War trailer came out, and I had the notes, and I'm like, oh, now I hear it.
Yeah, I think it was Mr. Batfleck or something on Twitter. He put them side by side, so it played Elfman's and then it played the Avengers, and it is almost the exact same. It's absurd. It's stupid.
I guess you could say it's a
it's
meta commentary about how DC is copying Marvel. Ha ha ha.
well, now they have evidence that we are.
Okay, so my
Um,
my first retort is that I've listened to the score, I listened to it the way that its context is used in the movie. I do think it's unremarkable, but that doesn't change the fact that the majority of all other comic book movies have had incredibly generic and typically kind of non-memorable scores. And the only exceptions that I feel like have really elevated to the point where you can kind of recognize the tune right off the bat are the Hans Zimmer like Man of Steel themes and BVS, as well as the Avengers theme. Everything else, you could probably just play it all for me in a row, and I would assume they're all from the same movie in many ways.
see, I can agree with that. There's been a lot of generic scores, but for me, it's kind of a blessing and a curse because once I hear it, I can usually remember it. If you played a bunch of all the tracks in a line, I'd be able to tell you this is Ant Man, this is Winter Soldier, this is Thor, this is Thor 2. I can tell the difference, and I think there's been more memorable scores besides those few ones that you mentioned. But yeah, it falls right in there with generic, and it really shouldn't have been. When especially if you, I don't know, I just felt like he was just being incredibly selfish and just being completely arrogant, and just saying, oh well, we'll just use the stuff that I did before because that's Batman's thing. It's like no, it's not. It's not in this universe. I don't want to hear. That's what I was kept hearing is when Batman was on screen, I would think of Michael Keaton. When Superman was on screen and fighting the Justice League, I was thinking of Christopher Reeve. And I don't know, it's just his viewpoint on the whole thing is it just handcuffs creativity.
And like the problem also is I don't think a lot of people really understand like the power of musical continuity. And like regardless of what you think of like say like Force Awakens, when the third trailer came out and it played the Force theme, it made me feel like
People
a
were
kid
sobbing.
again. And I'm just like, oh my god, I'm so excited, I'm something like that. And then like and the same thing happened when the I think it was the fourth Justice League trailer came out and they played they played the notes of Superman of the DCU Superman theme, and people were like, "Oh my god!" And that got an emotional connection. And then you get to this, and it's like, "Oh, damn it!"
They don't use it at all.
And then also when you do that, and then when Superman comes down and they play the Christopher Reeve theme, your mind goes, "This is Christopher Reeve Superman, not this is DCU Superman."
Yeah, and and Mango said it a couple weeks ago, like after we watched the movie, and he said that moment when the Justice League walks into the ship, and you hear that that Kryptonian theme from
From Man of
Steel.
Steel, the Hans Zimmer.
Yeah, it feels right. It feels like we're
Yeah.
home.
Oh
For
yeah,
that-
as soon as
that
that came out, I'm
second.
like, you could hear me in the theater going, oh, and like just like bouncing my knee, and just like because that's when I got really excited because it's like, oh, that music, I remember that music, and I'm like, I know this music.
And it's like you said, Hank. People connect to it. If you look at those, I watch a lot of YouTube reactions for trailers just because they're so entertaining. It's fun to see people, interact like you. It's like just like going to the theater. You can laugh and cry with them. But when you see people in that Force Awakens trailer and you hear the Force theme and you're watching people's faces, like you'll see them start to tear up. It's the same thing with that trailer you talked about with Heroes. When you hear that theme, like 9 times out of 10, the person I'm watching doing a reaction will go, oh, it's that song, it's that Hans Zimmer music, or they'll start to tear up. I've seen a lot of people tear up just from hearing those piano notes, and it's just completely thrown to the wayside.
Exactly, and we don't really have any great substitutes for it. Like, none of the tracks from Danny Elfman really kind of resonated, even though I do kind of like the Cyborg theme. You couldn't
For
really
sure,
hear it
for
too
sure.
well, but like it has some nice piano notes, and I noticed on my second rewatch that you could also hear elements of it at the moment when Silas leaves the lab and he's talking with like the janitor. You can kind of hear the notes there too, but apart from that and Flash's theme, and I only say Flash's theme because that's the music.
I find Flash's theme interesting because when I listen to it, because people are like, oh, it kind of sounds like Christmas or like something like that, or Nightmare Before Christmas, is when I hear it, it doesn't give me an idea of what the character is, but it makes me imagine what a world where everything is frozen around you, frozen in time around you, feels like.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I get the appeal from. I'm like, yeah, when I listen to this, I can imagine running through a world frozen in time and just screwing and just like touching things, moving things around with just like a touch and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, that's kind of a cool thing. I'd be fine if that becomes like the Speed Force theme and they could give Flashism like one more fitting to his character. But listen to it, I'm like, yeah, it's kind of an interesting theme.
See, yeah, I know I'm in the minority because I know, like, it's like 1 out of a million people are going to recognize that as the exact same Hulk score, the Hulk theme. So I know everyone else enjoys it, but for me, I'm just thinking about the Hulk, and you're not going to like me when I'm very angry.
Interesting. Do you guys have any thoughts on Aquaman's theme? Because honestly, I've watched the movie twice. I can't really discern it too well right off.
What it is.
Yeah.
Did he have one?
I think it was Icky Thumb.
You would think it was Icky Thumb, but there was a song playing like when the fisherman is like getting, or when Aquaman is rescuing that fisherman off the boat, like before Icky Thumbs plays. And I'm trying to remember it, and honestly, that's one of the lesser memorable pieces of many lesser memorable pieces
in
the
song.
They
gave him like horns, and because Elfman loves using horns,
Yeah,
it's just like, okay, what makes it different from the rest of like the tracks in this?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you get to like Barry, you have the flutes, and you have kind of like the music box kind of sound to it, and it's like, yeah, that allows it to stand out. But when you go to Aquaman and you use basically horns, it's like, no, this sounds like the rest of the soundtrack.
Yeah, it's all I can remember from it is bum 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 bum. That's it. That's all I can remember from his part. But can we talk about how awesome that whole scene was? Just like that entire scene of him saving the fisherman.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then it's just straight up Zack Snyder. It's pure Snyder. Like, I don't think they touched really anything in that. I think maybe they cut out like a little bit of it.
They cut out
here, but
face when the waves.
Yeah. Because you do see a cut of it,
stuff.
but it's like further back. So it's not something that, yeah.
I love it. It puts the biggest smile on my face. I was here talking to you guys when I was in my fourth viewing, and it's just I was just sitting there giddy as I watched it.
Can I just recite, because I saw it again with my little sister, and my little sister has some choice words for Aquaman, because like when Justin came over, people were talking about like, oh, and people were talking about like some of the sexualization of Wonder Woman, and we come out and I'm just like, oh, what do you think? She goes, I think they really over-sexualized Aquaman. I'm like, oh, really? And he's
really?
And she's like, yeah, like he takes off his shirt. It's like, we get it. You're hot. Get over yourself. And it was one of the funniest things. I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah, apparently Aquaman was over-sexualized.
To be fair, we do see a lot of the bat bulge.
A little bit, yeah. I don't know if that's it was too obvious.
It's not anything, but
I don't know, because when I saw it with my little sister, the part where Aquaman pulls off his shirt, you could hear in the audience some girl go, "What?"
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I just wanted to ask,
Heaven, I hate you.
I do want to ask, were there any scenes that you particularly didn't like or felt that you could take out of the movie and it would be better overall? Like, I know we've kind of talked a little bit about the Whedon reshoots.
Take out snippets.
Yeah, exactly.
But like entire scenes, it's like, I don't think you could take out there would be entire scenes that should be removed.
No, the problem with this movie is too much was taken out. You cannot afford to take out any more stuff in this movie. Although, yes, I would prefer less of the Whedon scenes or snippets. But yeah, I'd rather put stuff back in than take anything out. But
exactly.
Yeah, it's like Hank said, it's just little snippets.
Well, the thing, and I think I'm in the minority with this, is that I am fine if they release an extended cut of this version, but included more of the character moments
Oh yeah.
with it, and possibly more action. And because everyone's like, oh, we want a Snyder cut with Junkie XL's score, I'm like, I'm fine if they just improve on this one, because again, I like it. I'm like, and like an extended cut, I feel like can only improve on if they're able to expand on these characters.
Or just kind of like add back in some of the deleted scenes that fleshed out the characters, gave them more of a background. Like, we could kind of talk about how last week somebody had leaked out a whole bunch of deleted scenes from the movie, and most of them featured Cyborg or Flash. Like,
yes, I figured it out. I've silenced heaven.
nice.
Thanks, the way to kill our only running gag in this entire thing.
Was there like...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No worries. Like, I think definitely having at least a couple of those Cyborg scenes would have helped the movie, because I felt like Cyborg, for as much screen time as he got, could have had a little bit more expansion into who he is as a character, and also, as Snyder had promised, that he was going to be the emotional core of the movie, especially since a lot of the movie revolves around him in a way.
Looking at it, I'm just like, well, I can see why they cut it out, but why the fuck did they cut it out? And it was the scene where he's learning how to fly, and it's just like, okay, that's very human. That gives us so much about the character. And then it's like, okay, I can see why they cut it out for like time, and like it's not exactly necessary to the plot, but it's a great character moment.
Yeah, I would have been fine if the one scene, well, I guess two scenes I would have wanted in is from those that have been leaked, or actually I don't even know if one of them was leaked, but we've seen it. It's the flashback, or I guess it was flashback to Victor playing football, and you see him afterwards, like walking through an alley or whatever. I think that would have been really awesome to see. And then Flash saving Iris.
Oh yeah. Well, there were external reasons why that kind of happened, apparently, with the whole Flash rescuing Iris scene being cut out, but I don't necessarily know, because of all the drama that went behind that particular leak, if we're still going to get it in the future, or if it's still going to be worked on. But yeah, exactly. I wanted to kind of mention to you guys three things I think that if they were taken out of the movie would have been overall a lot better, or at the very least not as like tonally dissonant in many ways. First one is the janitor's wife talking about how her husband was going to get anal probed.
Oh, well, that's what I meant by like snippets.
Yeah, exactly. Like snippets. Two, Batman after thrown by Superman going, something's definitely bleeding. I know it's a kind of like a joke payoff, but it felt really weird that he would say that.
Yeah, super out of character.
Super out of character. The third thing, I don't know if it's the thirsty. It's the thing that kind of people have been kind of angry about, which was that scene where Flash falls on Wonder Woman. Yeah.
Which is absolutely 100% Whedon. You can see that same scene in Avengers: Age of Ultron.
Exactly. So, like, those three things out of, like, everything else in the movie, you could pretty much just take out. It wouldn't really affect the film as a whole. So, I don't know. I don't know if those are, like...
Oh, I did think of...
Yeah.
While the dialogue is very important, and I love it, I love the interaction, but when they're digging up Superman's coffin, it just seems so bizarre.
I think I know what line you're talking about.
It's just so bizarre to see them shoveling. And it's just like that's one of those parts that you don't need to see.
Well, the thing is I kind of like that because it builds the relationship between Flash and Victor, and they also go like, I could do it. Barry even says, I could do this a lot faster. It just doesn't feel right, and that's why he's just shoveling. He's like, I could do this way faster, but it just feels wrong.
Yeah, and like I said, I love the dialogue and I love the connection that they make. It's just the whole act of watching them do it. It's just one of those things where it felt like the movie was kind of coming to a halt. I don't know quite how to explain it. It just seemed just apart from it being wrong that they're digging up his body, and that's the story element that I do not like in this movie. Just everything behind that. It just, I don't know.
Batman's not exactly known for being respectful when, like, he's carrying out his plans.
Yeah, no, yeah, I get that, but it's not something that I would see Batman ever wanting to do. Because the sense that I get is he recognizes what Superman did, and he respects his sacrifice. And it's also just outside of his character. Batman is the guy who would, look at that and say, and be inspired by it, then he would refuse to. I don't know how to put this. I've been trying to think of a good way to put this all day. But it's not like he puts all of his eggs in the Superman basket of like, oh, we need this one guy. And that's just not Batman. He's the guy who has a plan for everything. He doesn't rely on anyone.
Well, the thing I'm looking at it I'm like, the way I understand that is he is like overcome with this like, my God, I fucked up during the last movie. It was like, my God, did I screw up and basically get this guy killed? And then now he has this way to undo that mistake. And he's like, no, I don't care. I'm taking that chance where I can undo this mistake and bring things back to the way they were. And I look at that, it's like, okay, a bit irrational, but I see where you're coming from.
See, and it's the whole thing of him having lost so many people. He's the kind of guy who accepts, well, he doesn't accept that loss, but he recognizes that loss. And he's just the kind of guy who I don't ever see trying to resurrect anyone. In Under the Red Hood, or I think it's the movie, he tells Jason, I thought about going to a Lazarus pit. I really thought about it, but I couldn't do it. And it just seems so out of his character. I don't think that's something that Batman would ever do, is mess with death, because that's something that I think he reveres.
Okay. I could kind of see that. I was only going to say that I kind of like that grave digging scene because that was kind of a moment for Flash and Cyborg to bond. They didn't necessarily have to do it while they were grave digging, but if somehow they would have been able to kind of bond over the fact that they had received their powers accidentally, would have been great. It kind of does feel like a Whedon rewrite, but at the same time, I can definitely see where you're coming from, Black Manta, with the context of it.
Verse of where Batman is a complete asshole.
Mm-hmm.
Read Metal Today.
I still haven't read it. But yeah, like I said, I'm fine with the dialogue. The dialogue is amazing. It's just the weird act of digging. It just seemed out of place in the movie.
Were there any other moments of the film that you guys didn't particularly like or wish had been changed around or altered a little bit? Like, I've heard a lot of people saying that they don't really, or they find the movie kind of average or boring because of how straightforward the story is. Was there anything that you would want to do to kind of change it apart from maybe what you had said earlier, Black Manta, about changing the reason for why Batman decides to resurrect Superman, or changing the whole situation of why he comes back?
I had my own thing that I think they should have done, and because people brought up the Russian. We haven't talked about the Russian family yet.
Oh no, we haven't.
Can we not talk about that?
But what I was going to talk about, what I thought they should have figured in, is because usually when Apocalypse comes to Earth and it's like, we're going to terraform you, you're going to do that, one of the things they do, and I'm surprised they didn't keep it in, and they only had like a small scene with it, is basically that when they do this, they basically harvest living organisms and make them into more parademons. And when they bring in like the Russian family, I'm like, oh, and like, are they going to harvest them? And like, so that, where it's like, because basically this idea of seeing someone you love being turned into a creature that just feeds on fear, something like that, and then the idea of then having these heroes come in and then reinstill hope in you after all this stuff, where it's like, it's going to take this away. And then also I think it fits in this idea of what, like, Apocalypse does, because what they do isn't invasion, it's corruption. So that's why they terraform Earth, and then that's also why they harvest civilians to be parademons. It's because it's corruption, and it's just taking away your will and taking away your hope. And I feel like if they put that in, it would have really fit more, and would have also, I think it also would have upped the stakes. if there is like this, no, like there, because when you get to it with like the terraforming, it's sort of like, it doesn't look like we be killed off exactly by this terraforming. And then when we get it, and then it's like, no, they're going to terraform, and then they're going to turn you basically into alien zombies. And it's like, okay, now that's a bit more fucked up. So it's like stuff like that.
Yeah, I feel like that was another thing that I felt like was just like thrown in there from WB or something, because I feel like Zach, he's the kind of guy who doesn't he said it himself. He's obsessed with tone, and like he never deviates from the tone. So I feel like that wasn't from him, because that family totally would have been killed or turned into parademons. But I don't
like if the little girl's like father or mother was turned into a parademon, and then basically like say Flash, Wonder Woman, or Superman had to come in and basically have her see that everything's still going to be all right, because that's what these heroes do, would have been an incredibly powerful moment. And I think a moment like that would have absolutely elevated the film, where, like, to quote, like, Batman from Dark Knight Rises is, like, just a small gesture to convince a small child that the world hadn't ended yet. And I'm just like, if they just had it seem like that, it would have elevated this movie.
Yeah, that's the thing I would have not wanted, is just the whole, I would have taken the whole Batman resurrecting Superman over the parademon and the whole fear connection, because me and you, Hank, we, I guess, argued and bickered over it.
Mm-hmm.
But I hate it. I absolutely hate it. It doesn't make sense because it works for some people and it doesn't work for others. And I feel like it works when it shouldn't, and it doesn't work when it should. Like the Russian family, I think they should be dead, because they've been sitting there for days in total and fear. And I guess parademons are allergic to whatever that house is made out of, because
it's made out of hope.
Yeah, basically.
That's what it's made out of.
Wonder Woman's love shield or something. But yeah, that family should be dead. I don't get the whole Steppenwolf getting swarmed by parademons. It doesn't make sense to me, and just it felt like they were kind of like, okay, the scene has gone on long enough. Let's just hurry and cut it real short. How can we do that? Oh, we'll have Steppenwolf feel fear, and then the parademons will swarm, and then Darkseid will suck him back up into Apocalypse. It just was too plot device. It was just a weak plot device for me.
Okay, yeah, I can kind of see that. Like, at this, on one hand, you would want maybe the League to actually like take down Steppenwolf with their own hands instead of having the parademons kind of do the dirty work for them.
But
on the other hand,
poetic justice.
Kind of, but at the same time, you've also
and
got.
I love poetic justice, but I'm also a big fan of regular justice.
I hate you.
But you could also maybe someday introduce the new gods and kind of have Steppenwolf be the stepping stone into that exploration, if that ever were to come to pass. If the movie,
a little
hopefully,
stepping stone.
Yeah.
The next time we see him, he's just a stone that people step on, or something.
Exactly, but I don't necessarily think we'll see the new gods for quite some time, especially now with the amount of effects and explanation and story stuff you would have to incorporate. But until then, that is a good segue to kind of talk about the post-credit sequences. How do you guys find the first one?
I liked it, and it was, and like again, like the movie, it works because of just the character interaction. It's sort of like those things where it's like, we're like, if the interaction didn't work, this scene would have been like, oh my god, I can't believe this is the scene they chose, like over something else, like other stuff that could have been like a post-credit scene. But like, because when someone tells you what it is, you're like, really? That's the after-credit scene, not something else? And then they have, but just seeing Flash and Superman interact for the first post-credit scene. First post-credit scene, for anyone listening, is Flash and Superman racing. Spoilers. But like, just them interacting is like, yeah, that kind of makes the scene for me.
Mm-hmm.
The first one, it reminds me of the ending of Harry Potter 3, where it's like, I love it, and I also hate it. Because it's that kind of like freeze frame type of thing. but it's like super cheesy. But it's like, oh, I love this moment. I love.
You're right. They should have jumped into the air first and then freeze frame.
I mean, that's basically what they did.
And
I mean,
Iris again.
Superman's got this big, stupid smile on his face, and Flash is doing that weird.
You should be
hand
totally
thing.
serious about this friendly right.
No, it just seems really, like I said, it's that whole thing of like, I really should not like this moment, but I love it anyways. So that's kind of where I fall on it. It's a good interaction. The whole, if I win, you're off the team, right? And then just smile.
And then Varys was like, really?
So yeah, it's a good it's one of the best after credit scenes I've seen, actually. Scenes.
I have to agree. It was pretty neat.
It's up there with Captain America pissing off the audience at the end of Homecoming.
It's pretty good too. I don't know, that post-credit scene, that's the one where I really noticed how weird Superman's face looked, because he kind of had like a little bit of a mustache almost, and you couldn't tell if it was all CGI or.
Where I watched him, like, it looks like his entire head is kind of CG'd on, and it's like, I don't know why.
Because Henry has a weird shaped head. Like, it's really long.
Don't you say something about Henry's beautiful head?
It's beautiful, but it's really long. You know. But yeah, it also kind of points out another problem in like the how they changed the color of the suit, where you can kind of see I'm not going to call it fake muscle padding because there's really no fake muscle on that suit. But you can kind of see where there's like darker pieces.
Well, the thing is, muscles. Like watching multiple times, I think it's only in that scene.
Yeah.
I think in the other scene, in the rest of the movie, it's not as noticeable.
Yeah, but what's more noticeable than that is the reds. And just the way they brighten the red, it looks terrible. I won't apologize for saying that. I feel like we finally see...
You look terrible.
Yeah, probably. Actually, I'm beautiful today. I had a nice shave, and this is beside the point. I digress.
You should have CGI'd your mustache off.
Yeah, I should have. But yeah, actually, one of my friends that I went to the movie with, after we got out, she's like, "Why is Superman's symbol bedazzled?" Because it had this weird glittery sheen to it, and it was like this really bright red.
Because he's fucking fabulous, that's why.
I thought it was mostly the CGI, like the way that they kind of lightened up a lot of this scene, kind of had really bad lighting on the suit. It looked basically the same as BVS, but because of the way that the colors are brightened up from
like
BVS,
they actually shot it outdoors.
Yeah, it was just too metallic-y, shiny.
I feel like we've finally seen why Zach went with a darker suit, because I don't like how it looks, like CGI'd or however.
Yeah, I don't know. I have a couple of friends on other Discords who don't like the suit either, but I attribute that mostly to the way that the lighting's shown, especially when he's fighting Steppenwolf, and that whole area with like the red skies. Just it didn't look particularly that great, but it's not too bad. What about the second post-credits scene though? We kind of finally got the appearance of another character from BVS.
It was okay.
Yeah.
Best after credit scene ever.
Ever? Nice.
Ever. And that is the one where people go like, that is the one where you get the equal reaction to when you see when people saw Thanos at the end of the first Avengers movie. Except this time you actually know what's going on and you actually know who they are.
Yeah, it's all four times.
Because Avengers is like, oh, it's that guy. Right? And then in this one, it's like, what? You just get the idea of like League of Their and then for anyone that's like either in Justice League, Secret Society, Legion of Doom, and it's like, even though like it's not saying that right, you at least know what it is.
Yeah, it's kind of incredible how many people know who Deathstroke is, because all four times.
Not the person in my theater.
Oh, really?
Really?
Like all four times.
Screamed in my theater, "Oh my god, it's Deadpool!"
Anyways, Yeah, every time there's one person that goes, or like there's a couple of people actually that go, dude, that's Deathstroke! That's fucking Deathstroke! And like people start screaming and cheering. It's the response is like Thanos, but bigger.
Because they know who it is.
Exactly.
I thought it was pretty good too. I kind of like the suit.
Was also more subdued.
The one thing I don't like is the women, all the women surrounding him. It just seems really.
This is Mercy 1, Mercy 2.
Like 1 would have been fine.
Also Mercy 3.
There's like 7 women just like.
And they're all called Mercy.
Well, that was my theory, was that he just hires a bunch of girls.
It's like
one person after another.
Title theory.
Yeah. It's just like one person dies, and so he gets another girl, and he's like, okay, your name is Mercy. And she's like,
oh,
what?
wait. Guess you look badass in that suit. That was a badass suit.
Mm-hmm. It comes straight out of the comics, like that suit that Jesse Eisenberg is wearing. It looks a little too big on him, so because we don't really know if he actually like got jacked for the role in future movies.
Jacked.
He kind of looked jacked, but at the same time he looked
bigger.
He looks a little almost he looks a little bigger, but also a little bit baggier. I don't know if you could maybe kind of tell because there may have been some like wrinkles on his suit, but yeah, you're probably right. He got super jacked. We haven't seen Jesse Eisenberg in a while, like out in the public.
He's a daddy now.
I know, that's so cool.
You know who's jacked? Freaking Joe Manganiello.
Jesus Christ, that guy is jacked.
Like, I was looking at the suit because I was looking at the still that he put up.
And you're just like, he is way too thin in that picture.
And it's like, if you look at his arms, it's like, he has a shoulder pad and he has like the grenades strapped to the pauldron or whatever. But then like you realize his bicep is completely him. And he's just
Mm-hmm.
It's like the thing where, like in a future movie, Batfleck like busts in, and then he just looks up because like Deathstroke dwarfs him.
I want to say they're the same height, 6'5" or
6'4".
Yeah, I just looked up a pic image of him. That arm is huge.
Yeah, it's like holy crap. It's like when Jennifer Garner was talking about how Ben Affleck had 17-inch biceps. It's like, how is that even possible? And then you see it, and you just feel completely inept.
Except this guy's like a super soldier, so I feel less inadequate because he cheated.
Possibly.
I'm just glad that they didn't kick him out. I didn't think that his scene was cut, but it's just a relief to know that they are moving forward with him, and they are remaining with Joe, and...
Give him that movie, Gareth Evans.
Oh, it's gonna be glorious.
Give him that fucking movie, and give him a sword fight with Katana.
Like, I just want to look at that picture,
you want it.
Yes, we all
Katana's had our back for a while, now it's time we have her back.
Like, I just want to look at that picture and just look at all the different kind of weapons he has, because he looks exactly like the Arkham version. Like, it's the exact same.
Mm-hmm. With the with like the Arkham Origins costume look.
I think so.
Yeah.
And also, I had a thought earlier today. I'm just like, if they do go with Legion of Doom, what I would like to see, and it'd be kind of cool if they did do it, is first off, I'm glad that the DC logo that they used at the beginning of Wonder Woman came back. I hope to keep on seeing it. But if they do Legion of Doom, when they have the logo in the beginning, I think it'd be really cool if instead of the heroes, it showed their villain counterparts instead.
I kind of think they have to.
Yeah, they should.
But I think it'd be really cool.
Oh yeah, that would be a perfect segue into kind of like our last couple of topics, because we've kind of gone over for just under 2 hours at this point. I wanted to ask, for the upcoming slate of DC movies, who do you think would make a good or which members do you think would make a good Legion of Doom? We've already got Lex Luthor, we got Deathstroke. Based on what we know, we know Black Manta probably for sure will end up being a member.
The one I'm having the hardest on is actually Flash, and that's always because people go like, "Oh, Professor Zoom, throw in Professor Zoom." Professor Zoom's not a team player. He is not a team player at all.
I feel like he is at some point. Sometimes he is. Like, he's reluctant and he hates it. But I feel like with all of them, he is he's a loner, but he will come together for a certain
And
reason.
but the thing is, he also has an ego that rivals Lex Luthor.
Yeah. I can't see anyone else being part of Legion. I don't want Grodd. I don't want Captain Cold because
Mirror Master, like an actual Mirror Master.
Well, the problem with the Rogues is they have that code. They have a really strict code that's well known for comic book fans, and it doesn't go really into
Abracadabra, then.
murder.
The Thinker. I don't know.
Throw in Abracadabra.
Quiet you.
Come on,
Yeah,
you know you want Abracadabra.
I kind of want Abracadabra. I just remember him in The Flash. I actually like that actor. He does a lot of
He
like,
did really well.
yeah, he does a lot of like cool like comic book stuff because he was in Gotham, he was in Blade Runner, he's in
How
MacGyver.
about Girder? Throw in Girder.
Shut up.
No,
I'm gonna see how many characters I can name.
Magenta,
Throwing,
Magenta.
yeah, I was gonna say Magenta. Dang it.
No, I would have gone with Captain Cold. Like, I would imagine Captain Cold would be like, "You guys suck. I'm gonna form my own group of rogues." Type
That's
of
the
thing.
after credit
Yeah,
scene.
yeah.
Oh, so Cheetah would probably be in.
Well, the
As-
thing
yeah.
that I think they should do, and it's just based off what I'm hearing about Aquaman, is I basically it sounds like Ocean Master is going to be the main villain, and Black Manta is going to be like a side villain. And I think that'd be a smart strategy if they have him as a side villain. You kind of get to know them, and then they come to Legion of Doom, and they're able to be expanded upon more. And that way, we don't have a retread of these heroes fighting the same villains over and over.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But Black Manta is kind of a character that he's the same as, I think, Professor Zoom, where he doesn't work with anyone. And yet he still works with people. And I think I can still see him on the team, so I'd like to see both of them.
Exactly. We need to know that.
And I say this as someone who wants as much Professor Zoom as we could get. Where I'm just like, I don't know if he would fit. Believe me, I really want to see Professor Zoom so badly.
Do you guys think we'll see a villain from Captain Marvel show up as a member of the Legion of Doom? I don't know if that's going to necessarily be the case.
Oh, of course, they have to suck that Black Adam / Rock dick so hard. Everyone has to get on the Rock teat.
See, so I don't necessarily think Black Adam would join the Legion of Doom. I just feel like because they're from two different production companies, it would probably be beneficial for.
But he was part of it in Young Justice, I think.
No, he wasn't.
No.
In Young Justice,
No, he wasn't.
I'm talking about their fake Legion of Doom. There was the Society of
Oh,
Light,
yeah, he was.
and then there was quote the Legion of Doom, which was their
He's part of
scapegoat.
it. He was part.
And I know we technically have Deathstroke for Batman, but can we please get the Joker in there? Just so he could annoy the shit out of everyone there.
Yeah, awesome.
But that's what I love about villains interacting with the Joker is that he just annoys them to no end, but they can't do anything to him because he will kill.
Exactly. Yeah.
I just don't want The Rock anywhere near my movies, so.
Hey, you're not excited for Jumanji and Rampage coming out in the same year?
I'll see Jumanji, but I'll see it for Joe. I'll see it for the Joe stroke.
No, that's Rampage.
Oh wait, yeah. Didn't I say Rampage?
Yeah.
As well as
No, you said Jumanji along with Thomas Wayne.
Well, I'll see Jumanji too. Gosh dang it, I don't want to see these movies, but I'll see it for Karen Gillan and Jack Black.
Jack
But
Black.
yeah, I'll see Rampage for what?
I'm seeing Rampage for the monkey.
I'm seeing Rampage for Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Joe Str.
Monkey.
Monkey's cool. I agree. I played the old video games too, so it'd be neat to kind of see how that gets
Where's Clyde
translated.
the Cyclops, damn it. Or it's
Someone-
Chip, I can't remember. It's a name that begins with C.
If someone in a bathtub doesn't get eaten by one of the monsters, I'm gonna be.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think we're probably near wrapping up the episode. I just wanted to kind of ask you guys one more question, and I don't know how long this would take, but so we kind of know that the movie Justice League that we've been talking about for like the last
hour or so, hasn't been doing well at the box office. And I was wondering if you guys could give me kind of like some theories or thoughts as to why that was the case. Why hasn't this movie resonated with audiences as much as the last couple of movies have? Weed and Elfman? Okay. Hank, do you have any theories?
Well, one of the things, because I wrote a review of it actually for my school paper, and one of the things I said, and this might have had also to do with sort of word of mouth, is the best and worst thing about this movie is that it feels like watching an episode of Justice League Unlimited. Is that it's like, oh yeah, you get the characters, you get the banner, but it just feels like an episode. It doesn't have this movie-esque feel to it where where people go like, oh man, I can't wait to see that again. It's like, oh man, that was great. It feels like watching an episode. And usually an episode, even if it's really good, there isn't this demand of you need to see it or sort of thing. And I feel like, so when people go like, oh yeah, it's good, it's stuff like that, it isn't like, there isn't this urgency of like, yeah, you gotta see it, man. And there are times where people go like, oh man, last night's episode was great. It's like, oh yeah, I'll watch it when I have time, rather than, okay, I gotta make time to go see it.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it also, it does feel incomplete. It feels very incomplete. And especially for us fans, I know for me, it doesn't feel like it completes the trilogy. I was watching the trailers the other day, and it's like, I was getting really excited, and then I realized, oh, I think another
thing that I think might be playing into it is because when a DC movie so far has been met with lackluster reviews, they go, okay, we're going to bring out the extended cut. I think that's happened so much that people are going like, there's no point in seeing it in theaters anyway. I'm just going to wait for the extended cut. And now, like, people are just staying away because now they've learned that the extended cut is always the better cut. So now it's like, no, you're not going to get my money twice. I'm just going to wait for the extended cut.
For me, I think from like the people I work with who have come to me because they know I'm the movie guy, and I will give them like a quick review and score because I usually go see the movie like immediately. For people who have been asking me, hey, have you seen Justice League? And it's like, well, of course. And it's like, well, I heard the critics said it sucked, and it's like, that's usually how it goes. Like they say, yeah, that's usually what they say is, oh, I thought all the critics said it sucked.
The critics were more mixed on it than saying it sucked.
Yeah, but I think that's just what these people, I don't know what they're looking at that says that, or if they're looking at Rotten Tomatoes or something. But usually, they say that, and I'll tell them, no, it's an awesome movie, I love it. And they'll go, oh, okay, I guess I'll see it now. But that's happened about 5 times now.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I think I'm kind of mostly agreeing with you, BlackManta. I feel like a lot of it, especially the depressed opening weekend, kind of came from all the negativity and all the amount of articles and scandals and craziness that kind of came out from Justice League. Everything from the reshoots to replacing Junkie XL with Elfman to the withholding of the Rotten Tomatoes score like the week before the film came out. A lot of these like things kind of gave people the impression that this movie was going to be a mess, and people didn't really have any hype or excitement. And I've heard a lot of people say that the trailers weren't that great, but then I remember how the trailers were overall pretty popular, and they kind of, didn't they like top out, weren't they like the highest viewed trailers so far for the year at the time when the movie was out?
They were pretty high viewed, and then Infinity Ward dropped and completely kicked them out of that ranking.
Well, I mean, yeah, like today, right? But even still, it just seems like people are against the DCEU for a myriad, many reasons, and it just kind of feels like right now the films have a bad reputation, and we might be one of the few of the minority who kind of like sees beyond that and can kind of look at the positives. But I feel like in the general public, they're not well received. And I don't know if we just need more movies like Wonder Woman to kind of capture everyone's imagination again, or if there needs to be a big shakeup. But I'm just not sure at this point, because I really enjoyed Justice League. I feel like it did have some problems. I definitely agree with you, Hank, that people are probably conditioned to wait for the extended cut to watch instead. But at the same time, I don't know. It feels like at this point something something desperate has to change.
Oh yeah,
Something big, yeah.
like fast tracking the Flash movie.
Exactly.
Not to reboot, damn it. Flashpoint isn't a fucking retcon. We're saying
Yeah,
this on the podcast so more people can hear it.
I don't like to throw people under the bus, but yeah, DC on screen, people who I thought would have known better were talking about using Flashpoint as a reboot, and it pissed me off. But I do feel like people are warming up to DC. I feel like people are just kind of like, they don't hate it, but they are kind of like in the middle of like, they're cool.
I think now we're entering the territory of hey, do you have anything to do? No. Want to see Justice League? No, okay. Instead of, oh my god, we have to go see this movie and stuff like that. So I'm like, at least we're out of the, hey, you want to see Justice League? Fuck no. Or at least we're out of that territory.
I feel like if anything, like, at the very least, people are seeming to like this movie more than the last couple. Like, people were very depressed from BVS. They all thought that Suicide Squad was garbage. Everyone was really good, but yeah.
People at my university, and people were way more positive about it. Even people who didn't like Batman v Superman or the other ones. They're talking like, oh yeah, it was great. It was there were some girls who were talking about who I know are huge Marvel fangirls, and they were talking about how much they love the characters in this, and I'm just like, okay, that's a step up, regardless of like how average the story or stuff like that. These characters are now striking a nerve with the general audiences, and that's what they're going to need to survive, is people to latch onto these characters.
Exactly, and I think that's going to be the legacy of Justice League going forward, even though it may not have been the huge billion-dollar box office hit that WB wanted, even though it may have had a bunch of tonal changes and reshoots and unnecessary additions from Whedon and Elfman. Despite all of that, I feel like at the very least we can move in a positive direction, mainly because of just how much the general public who did see the film enjoyed it overall. Like, I did have people cheering in my theater too.
Also the thing is people like the ending of this movie is one I feel like doesn't have quite the sense of finality that I felt the first Avengers did, because the first Avengers, when you kind of do it, it's kind of an end to the first phase and you feel it, but it's like there's a start of something new here and stuff like that, and things are never going to be the same. And this one, it felt like the start of a bright new future. It felt like the world has changed. The world has changed, and it's changed for the better. And I'm looking at it, and it feels like there feels more there's hope on the horizon, and that this world has finally started to grow now.
Exactly. Like, I feel like at this point, I wouldn't mind too much if the films went in a very lighthearted direction. Like, I don't necessarily feel that DC should always go into the darker, grittier, realistic type of films, but they should definitely have a balance. Because Wonder Woman, I felt, was a good way to kind of balance everything together. And I absolutely do love the Snyder films, but they don't have to all be in the same tone or vein. And I don't know why some people just couldn't get it, that DC, what they were trying to go for was to kind of have a mix between the lighter and the darker tone films. People just saw BVS and Man of Steel and thought, oh, that's going to be the direction for all their movies, and we don't like it, so therefore it's garbage type of stuff.
Yeah, I really hope they do. I mean, it's really in doubt at the moment, but I really hope they do stay focused on being director-driven and letting the director figure out the tone, research the character, figure out the tone, and then just remain faithful to that tone. And just, I don't know, so far they've had a really good sense of good directors. They just need to stay out of the way. I mean, David Ayer is an amazing, amazing director, but they just couldn't keep their hands off of the Suicide Squad. Same thing with Justice League and Batman v Superman. They just need to trust in these people, and I feel like if they do that, they're going to have more products like Man of Steel and Wonder Woman, and I think that they'll eventually
figure it out.
Level.
Well, that's what I'm hoping for, and I guess that's a good way to kind of close the show for the evening. I just wanted to ask if you guys had any more closing thoughts or things that you kind of wanted to bring up before we ended it for tonight.
Oh, there are so many things I wanted to talk about.
Okay. With
and
Whedon.
but we really don't have time to go into that.
Okay, no, I mean, like, we can always do, like, future update episodes.
Transition from day to night over this podcast.
Yeah, same
Where I
here.
am at, it is pitch black outside.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is winter
Damn
time,
you,
so...
daylight savings!
Yeah, I really want to do another episode just related to that.
Okay.
For you to just go off on Whedon.
Oh yes, oh yes. Because I love this movie. I adore the crap out of it. But every time I think about all the stuff that has been cut out of the movie, that's in the trailers, and that I was looking forward to seeing, and just like how there is so much action cut out, and it's just so, it makes me really angry. And I guess that's probably what most people are seeing on the server right now, is just me being angry and disappointed. But I love the movie.
Yeah, I couldn't obvious, like,
yeah. What you said? You couldn't tell?
I could not tell.
Oh yeah, that's how upset I am. I mean, Zach is one of my personal heroes. I love his movies. I connect a lot to his style, and the guy's been through enough that this just pisses me off, and that tends to show its ugly head more than how much I love the movie. I really do. It is one of my favorite movies. It is one of my favorite comic book movies.
Mm-hmm. But you just want more, right? That's exactly how I feel too. Like,
Yeah,
a lot of issues I have with the film come from that 2-hour mandated runtime. Like, if there was more fleshing out, it would have been, yeah.
I think one of the times I actually timed it, and the final battle is 10 minutes long.
See, that's just... We don't even see a lot of the action from... I mean, we see them stab a couple parademons and punch a couple parademons, and that's it. I just need more. I need more.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I think that will probably be a good way to kind of end the podcast for tonight, because we definitely should do more. I kind of have an idea of what we can do for the rest of the year in terms of episodes and stuff, but I definitely feel like, hopefully, when Justice League finishes its theatrical run, we get a kind of an idea of what's going to happen with the home media release. We can definitely come back and revisit the movie again and kind of go on another discussion about how it got messed up and what can we do to fix it.
When all of our hype has died down and we're bitter and tearing the movie apart.
Exactly. We might as well wait for that time until then. But thank you guys, as always, for joining in this discussion and for continuing to do another episode of the CBM voice chat. Thank you guys for not asking for any money, because I have none, and I'm only uploading to YouTube because
just my mind. Thanks for reminding me.
Exactly. The only reason I put these videos on YouTube is I don't want to pay to actually host them, so I just pirated something and make videos in like 5 minutes, and it works out. So.
Oh, all right. I don't know what's happening, but okay.
We've assisted a man in a crime.
I am completely ignorant.
Our hands are just as dirty.
My hands are clean. Thank you.
I think it works because yeah, you guys are the ultimate Mario Eden. Oh god, that's horrifying. Now that I think about it. But yeah, until next time, guys. Thank you for listening to CBM Voice Chat. Thank you very much again to AngryBlackManta.
Rock and roll, guys.
And thank you very much to The Flash, aka Hank.
Watch Justice League or else.
My name is Neophant, and thank you guys all for listening. Take care.
Everybody rolls with their fingers crossed. Everybody knows the war is over. Everybody knows the good guys lost. Everybody knows the fight was fixed. The poor stay poor, the rich get rich. That's how it goes. Everybody knows. Everybody knows that the boat is leaking. Everybody knows that the captain lied. Everybody got this broken feeling, like their father or their dog just died. Everybody talking to their pockets. Everybody wants a box of chocolates
was awesome and gave me chills.
I don't know because there was the same dialogue in the leak trailer. I got way more chills from the leak trailer because of the visuals they used instead.
See, I couldn't hear what he was saying in the leak trailer. I couldn't.
Well, yeah, it's
one
the
that
same
I watched,
exact
the
speech.
noise
The
was
only thing
that.
is that they kind of reversed it, and and like in that one, they basically went. They saved the Thanos saying like, oh, like I know what it's like to lose. He was like to feel. He was like you can hide from it, run from it, but destiny still arrives, and it's basically played over him kicking the shit out of the Avengers.
Oh,
Okay.
And it's like, well, that fits way better than just them looking out the window or just looking up to the sky and seeing a fucking halo ring.
Yeah,
over the New York sky.
That was my problem with the trailer. Is almost the entire thing is either logos, which that doesn't need to be in there. Just stick that in front of the movie. It didn't have any place in the trailer. And then the rest of the trailer was people just standing dramatically, ready to fight, or meeting someone else that they haven't seen or haven't seen in a long time. And then, so that's why the only stuff that interests me in the trailer is the stuff with Cap and the stuff with Wakanda.
And like I went onto Facebook earlier. I'm just like I'm so underwhelmed with this trailer, and I just went on this round like, this is 10 years of my life. Of
And
waiting for this movie. This
keeping
is
up,
10
yeah.
years of investment. And to see this trailer and go, it feels like shit. Like, people complain about Justice League. It's like, yeah, at least we weren't waiting 10 years for this iteration. Like, sure, people have been waiting a while for a Justice League movie. But when you get down to it, with this iteration, we were waiting only 4 years. Not 10.
I don't want to get into this whole thing, but like, what was the reason that Peter didn't want the Iron Spider suit?
Good question.
Why.
Oh.
But now he's wearing it.
The question that popped into my head is, why wasn't this the first suit Tony gave him to begin with?
Right?
Yeah, a little, but
like clearly this suit is better. And he's also talking about like, because in Homecoming he's like, oh yeah, they thought I was crazy recruiting a 15-year-old kid, and if you got killed, that's on me. And it's like, well then why didn't you give him a suit that would protect him? It was like why give him this Iron Man light suit instead of full on a full Iron Man suit? We know you're capable of better suits, Tony.
Yeah, it's just, like I said, I didn't want to get too into it, but the thing that's always bothered me about that suit is the implication that he is Iron Man's, guy. He's Tony's man. And in the Civil War comic book, he stops wearing the suit because he doesn't want to be associated with Tony. So, even though the suit is cool, for me, every time I see it, it's like, oh, that's something that the character left behind and didn't want because it wasn't him.
I also just don't like the design.
Design's like...
it can be changed, yeah.
Spider-Man, it's the 90s look when they brought in Ben Reilly and tried to... And like, stuff like that. It's like, yeah...
Ben Reilly suit alone.
Yeah.
That suit was dope.
it kind of reminds me of the, have you guys ever seen the Captain Universe Spider-Man in the comics? He kind of has like a blue and white motif, and it has like all these lines and like squigglies all over. That's what it reminded me of at first. But then, yeah, looking at Sensational Spider-Man, like that #1 issue cover with, like Dan Slott, and like when they rebooted it after Superior Spider-Man, it looked a lot like that too, because he had the glowing white eyes as well.
I've never understood that design to have the glowing eyes, because it just kind of seems like people can see you coming, but whatever.
But the glowing eyes are cool. That's why Batman, the Master of Stealth, must have glowing white eyes.
So he can see better. Yeah, exactly. You got it right there on the head. See,
but in my mind, that's always been an effect that he uses. Like, he can turn the lights on with the white lights on, but he can also just most of the time they're just dimmed down, so it's not actually shining out of the darkness. It's just when he turns it on and wants to have that effect.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's more of kind of like illumination or like be able to kind of see in the dark type of thing. I don't think he would use it all the time. I don't think Batman ever really uses, like, you know how, you see that, like, he had the tactical suit, he kind of has like the visor that he's wearing. I don't think he ever
way that
doesn't necessarily have the white eyes
Dark Knight
either.
movies, and then the Arkham games also did it too. Is that's what happens when he activates his detective mode.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't even get me started about how they didn't use the goggles at all, because they're supposed to be able to interface with his, the.
Well, we could save that for the podcast.
For the actual podcast,
Yeah.
I wanted to get it kind of like out of the way, right? Because I wanted us to talk a little bit about. Well, I guess it made sense that we talk about Infinity War, since that's kind of like the hot thing now before we record our podcast on older
I
stuff.
don't know, and like I look at it more, and the more I look at it, the more I just hate Thanos' redesign.
See, I don't have a problem with it at all. Although it is funny to hear people say, like, oh, he looks like my gym teacher or something.
He looks like he's wearing a fucking sleeveless shirt.
Yeah, I've never minded that, because he doesn't wear the whole armor and the helmet all the time. Like, it's been done away with for a long time now in the comic books.
I don't know. The armor looks so fucking good. It looked so good.
I can imagine that they would save his full armor look for either Infinity War Part 2 or later on in this movie, right? Because when he gets the full gauntlet, then he starts wiping out the universe and kind of goes crazy.
It kind of goes crazy.
Yeah.
He's always been crazy.
Well, we never get to see how crazy he is, though, throughout, like, the last few MCU movies. He's never, like, shown to have that obsession with death. Yeah. It's something that I think they'll change, to be honest, if they don't go the full kill 'em all type of route.
Also, I said it on the chat a few times, but man, Marvel, way to go the extra mile. Third Avengers movie, and you're still doing a CGI army. Way to go. Way to switch it. You're still giving us a faceless CGI army.
I mean,
at least Justice
kind of a
League
staple for
is
all of
going
them,
like, hey, Legion of Doom, maybe, and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, at least they might not be Doom, or at least they're to try something new.
I don't mind cannon fodder, because that's what it's for. It's just to show you how awesome the heroes are. The problem I have is when they all get deactivated at once, like the stupid Chitauri, whatever you want to call them. Like, just out of nowhere, for no reason at all, they all just die. It's like they're not robotic in any way. So why are you just dying?
Yeah,
that's what the thing.
Why aren't they using the Chitauri?
Wait, they aren't using the Chitauri for
It
this?
doesn't look like they're using Chitauri.
I thought they did like the Chitauri, though.
No, they're like these black four-armed creatures.
Oh, okay, yeah. I think I know what you're talking about.
It's sort of like, okay, you had these guys on reserve, and New York, you're just like, yeah, give them the B Squad.
You give them the ultimate scrolls, because that's who the Chitauri were.
You failed. You were saving up the actual army for yourself.
I can see Thanos doing that, actually. So.
And then it's like, oh my god, Loki, you failed me. It's like, dude, you basically told him to fix a wrecked house and then handed him a roll of duct tape.
The thing I'm upset about, though, is that stupid Black Panther suit. I don't like it. It makes him look almost... Well, not that it's a bad thing, but like he looks feminine instead of, like, I don't know, lithe or more sleek. He just looks more...
I think it played up the feline aspect a lot more. And like,
yeah, I'm sure that was the first...
Because when they were showing the costume in the Black Panther trailers, I'm like, okay, it looks more cat-like, and the new helmet looks more Panther-like, while the other one was kind of was Batman light with how it was designed. And this one's like, okay, this one actually looks more like a panther. It looks dumber, but it looks more like a panther.
Yeah, it's just the other suit had the ability to. It just looked powerful. It looked strong and it looked fast. So it was perfect. And then if you notice, like this entire suit is covered in Wakandan writing, and you can see that it's weaved in the. You can see this kind of how the armor is put together. This is just kind of like a leotard with a cat mask. It's kind of like a Halloween costume that you would buy in Walmart.
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah. It also has too many, like, things on top of it. I guess that's what you were saying by the writing, that it doesn't look very, like, clean. He doesn't have the pop collar that the old comics used to have. Those are the best. Mm-hmm.
But I am very pleased with Cap's look and his suit, as well as Winter Soldier, and also I like the blonde widow.
They also changed Thanos' eyes. Like I rewatched and I just noticed they changed his eyes.
You don't think that could be something that you would add in post production, though, that they could change the color or like the shape afterwards?
Well, because like if you watch well, I don't know, because if you watch in Guardians, it's like a glowing purple, and this one it looks like a regular, like just brown colored eyes.
No one cares about consistency in their cinematic universe. I think we've all kind of learned that a long time ago.
Yeah, it's not like we can take that claim anymore.
Any other things you guys want to? Yeah, is there anything else that you guys wanted to talk about before we kind of move on to like our main podcast topic? Because I'm considering like maybe chopping this up and putting this at the end as like a little bonus feature type of thing. No? Okay.
I'm good.
I'm just figuring what else we could talk about at all, so I don't know.
Who do you guys think will die? Or do you think anybody will die in Infinity War?
Nobody's gonna die.
Well, I'm looking at it, I'm like, and people are like, oh man, Vision's gonna die. I'm just looking at it, I'm like, no, they aren't gonna do that.
You know that part in Suicide Squad where Enchantress is like mocking someone? I can't remember what part it is, but she whispers in her ear, "You don't have the balls." I imagine that with like just over Marvel's shoulder. It's like over Feige's shoulder. Enchantress going, "You don't have the balls." Because they don't. They're not going to kill anyone.
Have you read that interview where he was talking about Avengers 4, and I'm just looking at him, I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Where he's like going like, Avengers 4 will give us something we haven't seen yet in superhero movies, and he's like, a finale, and it's like, okay, first off, no, because Dark Knight Rises, despite how you feel about it, was definitely made to be a finale, regardless of your thoughts on it.
Yeah, same with the Spider-Man trilogy.
And also, you announced 20 more movies after this.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to remember,
it's profitable. You don't want to, lose the money train.
You have to remember, this is the guy that said,
in Civil War,
if you got a scientist and walked into Hogwarts, you could figure out everything that they were doing with science. This guy just like talks, and he's kind of a Guggenheim and Wendy Miracle over at CW. They just talk, and maybe half of the stuff that they say comes.
You know what? Every day where I look at them, like, you know what? I'm glad Jeff Johns doesn't fucking say anything.
Doesn't want to get caught up in all the shit that's kind of been going around the internet.
Oh, it's like, what the fuck are you talking about, Jeff? Oh yeah, this is a finale of the DC Extended Universe. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Well, later we can.
Knows we'll call him out on it too.
Yeah, well, later on we can talk about the article that just came out. Honestly, a couple of minutes ago. We can go a little bit deeper into what it is apparently were the problems behind Justice League. But I don't know if you guys want to do that. Say that for the beginning or the end of our recording.
Who wrote it?
Umberto.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen it yet. I think people have been posting on it on the Discord. It's
Honestly, it doesn't
Yeah, I
seem
just
that much
read it.
surprise. Yeah, it doesn't seem like that much of a surprise.
I looked at him like, we already know this. Like, it was like, this is already what we suspected and already pretty much figured out.
Yeah, exactly. Alrighty, well, we can probably...
Nice.
Yeah, we can probably say that for the end, though, so... you guys ready, otherwise? I don't think Shingi is going to be able to join us. I don't know where he is. He said he had the whole day off, but...